The ideal approach to life is to live a better and more luxurious life than our preceding generations. But in today's world, living by this idea is no more than a fantasy. It is the first time since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution that younger generations put in more effort and hard work, but still end up poorer than their parents. As soon as these young millennials entered the workforce, a debate started regarding their spending habits. They have been accused of destroying various industries. Whether it's a casual family dinner in a restaurant or buying a home, millennials spend less than their parents. According to the Federal Reserve study, it is not about how millennials spend money, it is about having little to spend. Various studies have proven that youngsters are less financially well off than previous generations at the same age. They have comparatively less wealth, lower earnings, and fewer assets than their forefathers. Those born between 1981 and 97 paid the price during the Great Recession. These youngsters suffered unusually tight financial conditions and the weakest labor demand in human history. It was natural for people back then to develop saving habits and minimal spending. The recession has impacted all generations, but the effects are more permanent and long-lasting for millennials. The reason is that millennials were just starting their careers at that time, while preceding generations were comparatively more established in their lives and careers. An economic recession and rising costs of everything are driving anxiety for all of us, impacting the quality or standard of their lives today and in the future. Let's compare the average income of an individual from Gen Z with that of an average baby boomer at the same age. We can clearly see that monthly incomes have increased now. It is evident from historical data that members of each generation have experienced improved living standards than their preceding generations. But that is not the case with younger millennials, as they have barely seen any income rise than their predecessors, i.e. Gen Z. The situation is even worse for millennials after considering the housing costs. Then what is refraining younger generations from becoming richer than their ancestors? According to economists, growing up during the Great Recession has an adverse effect on millennials. Although median family income hasn't altered significantly, it has left them with less money. Almost similar median family income is probably because more millennial women are doing jobs than prior generations. That is not to argue that millennials and elder Americans do not have different generational perspectives. One of the reasons is that they have the least marriage rates across the generations and are more diversified and better educated. But previous generations have also experienced this. The study points out one noticeable difference. Millennials today have family incomes that are 14% and 11% lower than those of baby boomers and Generation X respectively. Moreover, millennials owe more to student loans than Gen X. Even if millennials are not getting richer than their forefathers, they still have higher living standards. Then what are they complaining about? The belief that their children will be much better off than they were has become common in the UK. House prices have increased. In contrast, young people's salaries have declined, further aggravating the problem. In the 20 years leading up to 2015-2016, the average property price increased by 152%, whereas the net family income for people aged 25 to 34 only increased by 22%. As a result, elderly homeowners have benefited financially. In contrast, young people have found it extremely difficult to climb the housing ladder. Home ownership rates for persons born in the late 1980s at 27 were 25%, compared to 33% for those born about 5 years before, while this percentage is 43% for people born 10 years earlier. These patterns and limited pensions and student loan debt appear to be affecting millennials psychologically. They may have become more risk apprehensive in the job market since life seems more unpredictable than ever. Compared to prior generations at the same age, they are less inclined to switch jobs or relocate for employment. This has an effect on the entire economy, given that those who relocate for work typically see more significant pay increases than those who prefer working with the same employer. It is likely to halt wage growth. The question arises here, why do millennials avoid shifting their jobs despite the expected pay increase? Let me explain it with the story of 25-year-old Jackson, who moved to London to avail a job opportunity that offered him more salary than his previous job in Birmingham. Before shifting, Jackson worked as a theatre support worker, earning around $20,380. Although his income has increased to $38,000 with his new London-based position, Jackson still needs help to balance his expenses. As he matures, Jackson plans to buy a house, but he's still determining how or even if he can. His financial status is the main reason behind his inability to make long-term plans. The situation is similar for younger people in other nations who are also experiencing the consequences of increased living costs. costs. According to the 2022 Global Deloitte Gen Z and Millennial Survey, about 1/3 of Gen Z participants fret about living expenses more than any other issues. 45% survive paycheck to paycheck, but well over a quarter suspect to live a comfortable life after retirement. Even though no one is out of the influence of this failing economy, the generation which is most badly affected by the process are individuals born between 1997 and 2012, referred to as Gen Z. They are going to be affected in a short term, as their career is just at the beginning stage. Unfortunately, this will also influence which pathways they will adopt in the future. At the same time, analysts agree that these people are right to worry about all this. Suppose you consider the time before this economic recession. In that case, youngsters were already striving harder compared to previous generations to tackle financial barriers and achieve significant life milestones, like buying a house. The research reports by the World Economic Forum Center for the New Economy and Society in Southern Europe and the US revealed that millennials are much less inclined than their forebears were to possess their own residences were when they were the same age. Several reasons can be attributed to this, but one crucial component is that the median home's price has steadily risen compared to the median household income. So it's not true that youngsters are reluctant to home ownership. Instead, they cannot do so. Wages of younger generations are likewise less generous than they previously were. Contrary to widespread wage rises in the US during the last 5 decades, living expenses have significantly outpaced wage rises. The situation is dire for the youngest generation. According to certain assessments, Gen Z in the US has 86% lower spending power than baby boomers of the same age. As they are just approaching adulthood and moving from college to employment, the unpredictable economy is undermining the younger generation's capacity to pay off debt. As they are just approaching adulthood and moving from college to employment, the unpredictable economy is undermining the younger generation's capacity to pay off debt. But that's only part of it. It also prevents them from generating credit scores that can help them secure their futures. Their inability to save may also lead youngsters to take on additional debt in the future. For instance, most of them cannot save money for a necessary emergency fund, a home, a family, or retirement. But what about the wealth that millennials inherit from their parents? Indeed, they will probably receive a much larger sum of money than their parents or even their grandparents. But there are several caveats. First, most millennials will receive such inheritance rights too late to take advantage of it to move up the housing ladder while starting a family. According to the think tank Resolution Foundation, 61 is the predicted average age for inheritors to enjoy their full ownership rights regarding the inherited property. Also, a portion of that wealth could need to go towards providing care for elderly parents who suffer from chronic illnesses like dementia. Another drawback is that the inherited wealth won't be distributed equally. It's affected by many other factors, including if parents owned a home, and if yes, then what's the value of that property? That will probably make the millennials' wealth disparity worse. On average, parents of millennials who have amassed a minimum of $250,000 in real estate wealth own a home worth $243,000 for each child, while millennials not owning homes are successors of parents who, on average, only have $100,000 worth of real estate between them. Still, above 50% of millennials without homes are those whose parents didn't own homes either. What's next for the younger generations? Can they expect a better, or at least same future as their parents? Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.